Okay, let's see. So we'll give people a minute or two just to drop on in, and if you guys are able to type in the message box on the side, let me know if that's working. You guys can hear me as well. Good to see everybody here. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're having a great Friday. Um, Awesome. Seems to be working on all that jazz. Perfect. So this is going to be a little bit more subdued. We might even do a little bit of a shorter one today. I don't know if you can hear it. You'll probably hear it at some points when I'm talking, but I'm kind of recovering from being a little bit sick, so I almost lost my voice last night. The joys of working game dev when you go and meet all sorts of different people and things like that. It always happens this way. I will say that you guys will get a sneak peek today at a piece of concept art. It's a black and white thumb, but I'm going to show it off specifically when I'm answering one of the questions that I saw. And I was like, well, we have to answer this because it was a big question, and it was a big one that we didn't answer. Some of the questions that aren't answered in the Q&A, we usually try to go through them and answer them with answered, although we did do them verbally. I'm doing a recap of those later, and I'm going to go back through them and then make sure that we get those answers all consistently. But I'll be focusing on the new ones today and then talking about some other things here. The proper format for anyone who's new, who hasn't done it in the past, is you can drop your questions specifically and ask a question. And in there and typing. I will not be inviting people to the stage, just to be clear. So if you're trying to talk, it won't be happening in this case. We will be doing a town hall in the future, which is probably a little bit better for that sense and all that jazz. You'll also be happy to know that I am audio recording this time. We'll see how the quality is. Last time it was being recorded by a member of the community who was doing a great job, but there was some audio feedback and stuff like that. So there should be an audio version of this drop. Most likely on Monday is when we'll start doing drops of the Q&As. So there you go. So I think it's 12. I don't know if I should. Oh, it's 12:01. We gave them a full minute for all the other people, but we'll wait a little bit longer. We're just gonna get started pretty soon and go through stuff. So I hope everyone's having a good day and all that time. What a ride it's been so far. It's been absolutely wild. We started this teaser for a variety of reasons. We started this project for a variety of reasons. We were really excited. But one of the craziest parts was we're at almost 580 members on the Discord alone. The amount of views that we've received globally in terms of on Twitter, on social media, and other places blew our minds. And we were very excited to see the engagement that we had on the YouTube, obviously on the teaser and the music. So it was a very wonderful start, and we're very excited about that, and we're just going to keep going with that. That said, I can't talk too much about this, but interestingly enough, funny story. Flameborn Games was originally working on something that I can't talk about too much, and I think one of our members is here, so he's probably eyeing me, the programmer. But I'm going to be quite clear about this. We actually were working on a first project. So we called it Project A, and that was started when we were just forming up. I can't get into any specifics. It's a very different genre in game than what we're doing with Heavy Gear. It did not get canceled, Scuttlefish. Thanks for asking that. I just responded to that. So this project is actually in production right now, which is where the majority of our team is currently working. But I'm very excited to say that in the coming months, we'll be able to actually share that with this community, talk about that a little bit more in terms of Flameborn. But that's one of the reasons why things are going a little bit slower in terms of asset creation and things like that on our side because of that. But we're very excited about that project. And the reason why this was happening was we didn't have Heavy Gear at that time. Heavy Gear became a thing that we started, we talked about it on the team, and we're like, has anyone gone for this? And then we went for it, and then we were able to get in touch with Robert from DreamPod 9, and that was mostly because of Prow, who managed to connect us. And then we went through a lengthy negotiation on IPs and all sorts of stuff. So what was really great about all of that jazz is that Heavy Gear is our second project as a studio, but we announced it first because we didn't want to miss the 30th anniversary. But our Project A, which is a little bit smaller scope and a faster project, but a very fun project. I'm very excited for it. That specific project is well, we're gonna be making announcements on that in the coming months, I'm assuming. So I'm excited that we'll be able to share that with you guys in the future. Very, very different. Looks like we got a good 22 people in the audience right now, so that's pretty good. That's a pretty good start. So going to the ask questions, I'm going to start from the top and work my way down from what I am seeing here. So right now, the first question is from Kilroy47. Kilroy47, hopefully you're here. And that question is, any plans or even just discussions to support HOTAS controllers and or VR headsets for us wannabe pilots, or even allowing mods to add in support later. Okay, so we're in the very, very early days for that Kilroy. Now, what I can say on that is that have there been discussions? Yeah, there's been discussions on the team. We're always talking about things like that, being big nerds ourselves, and we love that kind of stuff. I will say that VR support is difficult, to my knowledge, depending on systems, and then there's all sorts of changes and things with UI and all that. So, we can't confirm or deny anything at this point just because it's too early. So there hasn't been like a we're not doing this because of bandwidth. There also hasn't been like we're doing this because we love it. So it's still up in the air there. What I will say is that we're all very big fans of mod support. So I would expect, fingers crossed there, but I would expect that if we weren't doing it, we would try to make sure that our mod support is robust enough that someone could tackle that and from the community if they wanted to. That's a big goal for us in terms of making sure that things are accessible to fans. And we love you guys, and we're gamers ourselves and players, so we just love being that supportive. So going from that one, and I'm going to just give that a little, I'm going to give that a little flame there, make sure that I know which ones I'm responding to here. I think I have to add the tag. I got yelled at by one of the things, so I'm gonna put this down as answered. I'll type that in later. I won't do the answered yet. Okay, so going down there, anti-gear combat from Rebel Wick. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, if infantry combat is added to the game, can we extra to be able to fight gears on foot, armor hunter, mellow link style, and if so, can we expect to see and use some man portable anti-gear weapons? Okay. Okay, this is a fun one. I'm very excited about answering this. The answer to that is yes. Yes, there are all sorts of anti-gear weapons that are being discussed on the team right now. We really do want to make it that the combined arms aspect of Heavy Gear Universe is on full display. So infantry and fighting outside of a gear should make gears nervous. Gears need to be cautious about those annoying, pesky little cockroach infantry guys who can hide in places they can't get to, who can pop out of really annoying places, who can really sneak around and present low visibility targets and things like that. And of course, the infantry need to be very careful because gears are fast and big. And they got all sorts of gadgets and sensors and all sorts of things, and they carry really big guns. I don't know if you've noticed that. So infantry is always going to be sweating bullets when they know that there's a gear squad around. So the answer to that is yes. There is definitely going to be some robust conversations about that, and we're talking about that on the team right now. All right. So with that one answered, just did that really quick. I'm going to get back up to the top there, so don't worry, Ratsy4, I'll get there right now. Customization. I think we've covered customization a few times, but this is from Outlook CUV. Fairly sure it's been said before that loadouts are fluid, able to swap a LAC for the Mac as an example, but I was wondering if there's any information about other forms of customization that may be planned for cosmetics, gear paint schemes, decals, as well as mechanics, tweaking some stats variables of gears a la Heavy Gear 1 and 2. Okay, this is fun. So we're not locked in on this one, but I can talk a little bit about this, being creative director on this project. I can tell you what the goals are. This is subject to change. I want to be really clear about this. So don't be like, no, you promised this. It's like I was quite clear, and I'm recording this, that this is still subject to change. Gear paint schemes and decals are a huge thing that we want to do. We really want to honor not only the paint schemes that are from the game. We want to like get some inspiration from what you guys have done, especially for the Golden Gear Awards and things like that. We want to take a look at the old games, and we want to take a look at the new stuff. We'd love to add the paint schemes from the show as an example, which would just be hilarious because they're so bright and weird and stuff. Not the Dino Gears. We're not adding those. But the main thing there is doing the customization and all that stuff. Absolutely, decals, gear paint schemes, and things like that. They're a big part, and they also create a good level of personality and culture. You can really tell things from like the Sun Emirates. You can tell things from the Northern Leagues and from the Southern Republic and all that stuff. So the Badlands and from the different communities in the Badlands, from Carradine to Port Arthur to obviously Paxton with Peace River. So it's really that's a really big thing that we want to do for sure. As for mechanics, tweaking some stat variables, that's something we're still investigating, and I mean that in a positive way. I think one thing that we're very big on is we want to see something that's a bit more punchy than just like I have a +5 to hitting. So we want to make sure that it's not just stat variables, it changes gameplay. So we're really looking at how you can like equipment and weapon loadouts and gear sizes, just going from light to medium to heavy, and not being inside of a gear or being inside of vehicles can change not only just how hard you hit and everything like that, but like that. A big conversation we're having is ammo types. We think ammo types is a really cool thing, and we think that'd be really neat that you're actually able to like switch out ammo types on some weapons, which we think is great for ballistic guns, and can really add some more punch to them because you can't really switch out your ammo types on lasers. You can maybe change the energy output, but ammo types we think are really really cool. Same thing with like grenade types. Like a white sand grenade is a very interesting kind of concept compared to just like a frag grenade or a smoke grenade. And when I'm saying that, that's just like a little bit of creativity there. The main thing to understand is also because of the way that DreamPod 9 has structured the deal with us, and we were happy to sign this deal. Everything that we do is filtered with an understanding of us working closely with DreamPod 9. So we can't just throw stuff in. We have to work closely with DreamPod 9 and make sure that it fits the universe. And although we've been told we might be able to get to create some unique things that are going to be unique for this experience and then incorporate in a heavy year later, for the most part, we are trying to pull as much as we can from the 30 years of lore across books, RPG books, tabletop gaming, and of course, three video games, as well as an entire TV show. So I hope that answers your question there, Outlook UV. All right, going to the next. I think I have four more before I bop up to the top again. Are there going to be new variants of classic gears? This is from Dakota Takamoto. Joestar, I hope I got that right. I have seen the wiki of all the variants of any of the gears, like the Hunter, for example. I was wondering if there are going to be new variants that are exclusive to the game, or are there going to be any updates to the original designs in them? So I updates to some. There are some things that we just have to update because, frankly, they don't work physics wise, and we're trying to keep and honor the anime style. Just to be clear, you can see that with all of our art, but even with our art right now with our thumbs and even with our key art, there are some changes that we're making, light changes. Know that we're working very closely with DreamPod 9, and we want to ensure that we stick to the lore as much as possible and that we're trying to create the spirit. In our minds, we're trying to honor all of it at the same time. And although there might be some choices that we have to make there from time to time, that is definitely a big thing that we're doing there. All right, going from that question. Oh, and yeah, is there going to be any new variants that are exclusive to the game? I can neither confirm nor deny if there'll be new variants, but I could rub my hands together as a creative and be like, I hope so. But that's kind of one of those things where it's really, once again, talking between Pod 9 a lot more than anything else. Okay, the best question so far. It can play Crisis. Steenhauer, will you guys be designing the game to use ray tracing? Yeah, we chose Unreal 5, and Unreal 5 can do some really beautiful things. Obviously, you need to optimize. It's the big battle on Unreal 5. But the main thing here is that, yeah, I think we'll be taking a look at all the lighting and all that stuff. We're very excited about Lumen and Nanite and all that kind of stuff, and all the new tech for the engine, as well as all of the new open world tech that is coming out and being supported and driven by new open world games like the new Witcher that's coming out, Witcher 4, as well as some other open world games that are unannounced. I think the big one, I believe Rebel Wolves doing Dawnwalker, I think is what it's called, which is a vampire game is using Unreal 4, and they're doing some crazy stuff with skyboxes and clouds and smoke and stuff. But I have to double check if that actually is, if they are using Unreal 5, but or sorry, on Unreal 5, sorry. But it's been kind of exciting to see. The cough medication is kicking in, so I'm getting a few things jarbled up there, so apologies. Going from there, will we be able to squish enemy infantry, and if so, will there be gibs? Death. Very fitting name to be asking that question. Will we be able to punch or stomp on enemy infantry, squishies, and if so, will there be nice bloody giblets afterwards? Okay, so that's an interesting question of itself. So there's a little thing called the ESRB, which is a rating system. There is also something called PEGI. PEGI is a European thing. So if you play a game, you might hear the PEGI 13 thing, or rated E for everyone kind of thing. These are the rating systems that affect storefronts and things like that. This has become, sadly, in our times, I don't want to get too political here, much more prevalent and more important as credit card companies, payment processors, are getting much more aware of these things, seem to be reacting in a variety of ways that is either, in my opinion, reactive or at the very least very risk adverse, I guess is a good way to put it. So in terms of will we have giblets and blood and stuff, I could see us doing that for sure. But I think one of the things that people need to keep in mind is there's a very interesting game series. Who here knows Total War, Creative Assembly? Does anyone know Total War here? You can raise your hand. You can just type quick if you guys know what that title is or that game series. So Total War does something really clever. And this is a little bit of a business thing, a glimpse under the hood of the game industry. Total War, when they launch games, specifically Warhammer, Total War Warhammer 1, 2, and 3, also Rome Total War 2, Shogun 2, as well as some of the other games, they launch without blood. Why do they do that? Well, because they get a different rating because there's no blood. Then they launched a DLC that they have to make paid. If it's free DLC, then it doesn't work. So they make it the lowest price they can make it, which is I think like $3.99. Because if you go lower than that, like you're at a loss. So they make it $3.99, and then you just buy the blood, or they put it into a bundle. Like, oh, you can buy the bundle with all the other DLC, and then this is just wrapped into it. That way, they don't get like a rated R or rated 18 or whatever. And that's a very clever thing that we were looking at, and we're going to investigate that a little bit because if we weren't actually being blocked, yeah, that's why they do that, Maddie. But if we weren't actually being blocked from a rating that we are okay with, I could imagine us doing something like that. So I am going to be fully advocating for Gibbs blood and all that stuff. But at the same time, I do think that there is something to be said about having a base game that isn't too graphic. And I do feel strongly it's kind of baked into the robot and mech scene. There's a reason why blood and guts is not really the thing you're seeing a lot. It's usually a lot of gears and oil and fire and smoke. So that's something we can definitely balance. Now, all of that said, graphic violence. So what I mean by that is like very Mortal Kombat-y, like you cut the person in half and you can see like they're like a slab of meat. You can see the bone, the organs, and the muscle sinew, and they're twitching and stuff. Yeah, we're not Doom. We're not that. So I don't believe I would ever go that far or that in detail. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but I think the main reason is that's a lot of work. That is a lot of work to go that hard. I think I met a guy whose whole job on Doom was just the textures on the death animations. So just the textures. He didn't do any modeling. It was just the texture work. 4 years of your life to just make sure that the bone textures will work. It's pretty wild, in my opinion. A man would go mad. So that's kind of my answer there. I hope that answers that question correctly there. Going from that one, so I hope Death is satisfied with that answer. We'll follow that up. Okay, so this is one I wanted to share. So there was a question here earlier, which is flame Jaegers and flamethrowers. Will they be a thing? Will the flamethrowers use real napalm instead of Team Fortress 2 gas from CMDR Hatchling? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to post something really quickly here. I'm going to share my screen for a second. So let's just share my screen so we have a little bit of some a sneak peek, something you haven't seen yet. So only you in the chat will be seeing this. This will be posted later on social media in the future. You might recognize this flame cobra, but there's the thing is, we had this. This is one of the first ones we built. We drew this real quick, and we wanted to make sure that we brought the heat, because heat is important. Absolutely, we're going to be doing flamethrowers, and there's going to be different types of flamethrowers. So the question that I would have back is like, oh, is it going to be like gas, like Team Fortress 2, or is it going to be like napalm? My response to that is it's going to be like heavy gear. And what I mean by that is we would probably imagine different types of flame weapons and attacks. There's a huge difference between a Molotov or an incendiary grenade versus like a napalm melt metal on a gear kind of weapon. So we're going to be investigating that, and that's something we're really excited about because we can really get into some fun there. And yes, I hope we get to the point where we can make it so that if there's enough heat that the sand literally glassifies. It'd be so cool. But that's kind of like a really fun thing there. Yeah, and gas and liquid-based flamethrowers both exist in the universe, and we'd probably want to like honor both of those things because that could be different damage types and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that answers that question. Now I'm gonna remove this image really quickly, so I'm gonna stop that stream, but you'll have to see it later. Hope you guys all enjoyed that little sneak peek there. Going into the next one, I'm seeing not a lot of new ones, so we're gonna get into some of it. I believe I've answered this already. I see someone who said co-op or multiplayer from Daki. I believe I answered that a while. Yeah, that was from 15 days ago, so I don't think that was anything new. Does the team have plans for multiplayer gameplay? If so, what would you hope it looks like, and what is actually reasonable for the team? Okay, so there's still a lot of questions going on there. I think I've answered this one a few times, but the main thing is we're not committed to doing multiplayer because we want to give you guys the best single player experience possible. So our current commitment with our current team size is single player, to be clear. At the same time, it's undeniable how many people online were yelling about multiplayer options, from both co-op to multiplayer. We are discussing internally as a team. We are looking for solutions there. We are looking at our options and what we think we can and can't do. So stay tuned for more information on that. It is not locked. So we are not literally locked in on a no, we are not doing this. But what we are saying is we are fully committed to single player. So what we mean by that is we don't want anyone to believe that we're just suddenly going to be like, yeah, single player is too tough. We're just going to do esports. That's not going to happen on this project. But at the same time, or like we're doing an MMO now, or we're doing a hero shooter, kind of like we're doing Overwatch. It's not that. So that's not going to be happening. What I could imagine us saying is that we're going to investigate, multiplayer options, peer-to-peer, PvP, PvE, co-op. These are all things that are in open conversations at our studio, and we're going to be investigating those things and looking through it. I can already feel the programmer who's here, and the Flameborn programmer is here, and I feel his eyes narrowing as I talk more, so I need to move on. He's going to throw something at me, even though I'm working from home today. Going back to that, I'm joking. He's a great guy. Going back from that, space or underwater combat. Razzi 40. I was curious if y'all were considering some form. I had to get that right because y'all you went YA and then comma LL. So y'all were considering some form of space combat like in Heavy Gear 2, or perhaps some form of underwater combat because you mentioned water vehicles. I'll stop with the accent. Just had to make a little joke there. Not sure how popular it was at the time, but I liked the space combat in Heavy Gear 2 and I thought it gave the game some interesting variety. I absolutely think it would. Yeah, put that Nerf gun away, Volvaria. So I absolutely think that there's a lot of great stuff of on variety. So underwater and space. I can't confirm nor deny where we're going in the game. There's still a lot of story exploration going on our team, especially with our narrative director right now. There's also still a lot of like, okay, this is as big as we are. How do we scope this down? How do we scope this up? Where can we improve? Where can we go bigger? Where we can go smaller? Investigation. That's the kind of process that you normally have to do in game dev. You should always be wary of someone who says that this is the vision and it'll never deviate. That never happens in game development. Whatever, it just never happens. Things do go through organic, natural changes and healthy development. The most unhealthy development in game dev is when you're pivoting constantly. So when you go from like a huge single player game to a live service game to an MMO to a phone game back to a single player game. Not going to knock on anyone, but there's some big game franchises that have had those issues. That's usually very unhealthy. The other one is if you never deviate, even though all the information is telling you should deviate. But that's something that you have to keep in mind and understand about stuff. In terms of the biomes and stuff, we're very focused on the Badlands. But the Badlands have a variety of biomes in of themselves. You have the White Sand Desert right off the bat. You obviously have more open desert areas. You have farmsteads. You have oasis towers. You have ruined battlefields from the War of the First Alliance. You also have ancient sites, so crash sites and things like that during the Great Exodus, when people were fleeing Terra Nova back to Earth because Earth was pulling all their colonies and all the people of rich and wealth were trying to flee. And then there was also other things too. You have cave systems because of the McLaren Cave Network, as well as the very porous nature of the rocks. You have deep ravines, badland-like stuff. You have some areas built around oases themselves, not oasis towers. So there actually are some green areas here and there. You have Caradin, the big junk city. The Mag trains. You have the Mag lines, which is always really, really fun. You got the mountain areas. So you already have a variety, a very wide variety of places there. And that's just exteriors. I haven't even gotten into interiors there. On top of all of that, if we were to do something that was underwater, I would say any sort of underwater thing would most likely be taking place in the McLaren Cave Network. But I would expect, to be honest, I would expect that to be more of a mission-based thing rather than something that you would be like constantly going and doing, just to be clear. Although it could be fun to be like, oh, you don't have a gear that can go underwater. Oh, here's your scuba suit. I'm sure you'll be fine. There are definitely no alligators down there. There's no giant alligators. Only real fans will get that joke. The other one, of course, is I think the excitement is space. Space is a very, very big part of Heavy Gear, and it gets much more important later. So could I see us doing something in space? Yeah, I definitely could see us trying to do something in space. Is that going to be a focus of the game? Probably not. And because we're doing more of a sandbox kind of open hub thing where we have a larger hub that's almost a sandbox in its own right, I would imagine that most of the focus is going to be on the Badlands. But you never know. Maybe there might be some special missions or something like that. So we'll have to wait and see there. So I hope that answered that question. Man, we got through a bunch of the questions pretty fast here, so that's actually really fun. So I will go through there. Let me take a look. I don't think I have any new questions there. I'm just taking a quick look. I think I answered stuff on, yeah, a bunch of this stuff was answered in the past. I think 11 days ago, yeah. So there's one here that I see that I know I didn't answer. This is from Steenhauer once again, with a story, tumbleweeds are best left to themselves. With a story of the future on a world with a vast expanse of desert, it feels the setting for this game is going to be something like a space western. Is that the plan, or are you planning to do something else with it? Okay. This is kind of fun. I can get into this a little bit more, so this is going to be interesting. Yeah, I actually did survive the St. Vincent's Plague. Thank you, Jayton, for asking that in the chat. Um, Literally, you can hear my voice is cracking even right now. It was bad. It went up and down. I don't know what this was. Definitely wasn't COVID. I took two COVID tests. So it was some sort of flu, cold, weird retrovirus that my kids brought home. That's why I made the joke about St. Vincent's. But it was yeah, back to school flu is definitely how it felt. It might obviously no one from the Humanist Alliance has done anything. This most likely is from the CEF, those evildoers. Probably, yeah. It's from the Atuka Brotherhood. But the main thing here is this. Going back to the question about Space Western, we are heavily influenced by Space Western. I think everyone could picked up on that with our teaser, with the music that we were going and everything like that. That does not mean that we're not also influenced by what we've seen from not only the tabletop stuff, but also Heavy Gear 1 and 2. Heavy Gear 1 and 2, especially Heavy Gear 1, is heavily influenced, in my opinion, from Wing Commander. You can feel the Wing Commander love in that game. I think anyone who's played those games knows that. It's got the live action cutscenes. It's very militarized. It's really kind of playing up that idea that you're a fighter pilot, and in this you have your aircraft carrier, which is your land carrier, and all this jazz. And it's a tale about war and betrayal and honor and all that kind of stuff. And all that jazz. So one of the interesting things about that is that although we feel the Badlands can be the focus, and we really want to make it the focus of Heavy Gear 3, and we want to get really more into the personality of the Badlands and give you an opportunity to really explore and everything like that, we do also want to honor Heavy Gear 1 and 2 quite a lot, because we are very big fans of them. But what we don't want to do, and I think Alley Cat just kind of answered that, I've been asked multiple times by game devs, also people applying for work with us, which we didn't have any open positions. We had a producer position open that we've closed that, but that's a whole other thing. We keep getting asked, so is this more like BattleTech or Armored Core, or is this like Steel Battalion? We keep getting asked questions like that, and my response is, yeah, it's more like Heavy Gear. And they blink at that and they get confused. So is that like BattleTech? It's like Heavy Gear. And that's been my response to people over and over again. And that's the thing. We really want to tie in and tap into what makes Heavy Gear. And that's the major thing. If I'm going to use a reference to anything, like to anything of what Heavy Gear is like, we're going to reference what Heavy Gear is influenced by, in my opinion, which is Votom. But at the end of the day, it's just a really, really important thing that that people understand what we're aiming for. So in terms of theme, yeah, we're going for a space western for the Badlands for sure. We're definitely heavily kind of leaning into that to have a little bit more fun and stuff. But this is a whole world. There's lots of different cultures, and what we're doing there is to kind of go all over that. So that's a big thing there, and we're having a lot of fun. Also, just a reminder, if you're going to ask questions, once again, ask a question is where you want to do that. Otherwise, I will not be able to answer. So I can react to the comments in the chat log, but we just got through. Last time there were so many questions. So if there is any more questions to be asked, just go to ask a question, and we'll be going through there. And that's, I just laughed at what Scuttlefish just showed as our that actually could be our key art for the DLC. That'd be perfect. So thank you there, Scuttlefish, just laughing. But I think the other thing to really talk about in terms of Heavy Gear, you know what, you guys have been good. You guys are sneak peeking. It looks like my voice is holding up a little bit. Do you guys want to see Do you guys want to see maybe something else? Do you want a little glimpse of something? Do you want a little sneak peek, a confirmation that okay. All right, here we go. We're gonna share our screen right now, and this is the other sneak peek that you guys are gonna get. Because I can confirm something. I can confirm something if you look at my screen right now. Because there's a certain somebody at the top there, standing above his loyal Grell Republic soldiers, with also potentially a human rover who's joined that gang. Can it be heavy gear without Proust? Can it? Can it be heavy gear without Proust? And could you have Proust without him choosing the worst gun possible, a bullpup, to use? I will die on that hill, by the way. And if you have Proust, how can he not have a cape? And if he doesn't have a cape, how can he not have a Megatron fist? Um, we are we are very excited about bringing Colonel Proust to life. One of the things that we were talking about a lot, one of the first things we looked at was the fact that Proust is a really amazing character in the lore, but he's bigger than life. And one of the things that we love about Proust, and what we love about all the Grells, to be honest, and if you're wondering, these are the Mordred class Grells right here, the big square jaw guys. If you look right here, he's got his kill count etched onto his big gun, and then he's got a grenade necklace. So there's grenade pins on this necklace here. He's got an open jacket that he's obviously taken from someone. He's putting his old shoulder pauldron on there. He's got his other sleeve torn off. One of my favorite parts about her, if you haven't noticed about this, is that she's basically made a custom fire axe into a weapon. She's got some little grenades here, but the tattoo is one of my favorite parts. And this guy has painted onto his respirator kind of a samurai style thing there, which we thought was so cool while he's fighting with two pistols. But these are the same class of Grell, these two, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the Jan class. I hope I'm getting that right. And one of the things that we're really excited about doing is bringing Grells and the clone classes to life, which is a really interesting thing because it means that the clones have the same voice. And they have the same faces, but you have to show personalization between them. And we're very excited about Proust because there is nothing better than having Proust up there. Now, will I confirm or deny like that that we are looking at like say possibly having radio stations that you can tune into in the Badlands? We're investigating. Will I say if there were radio stations added to this world, would Proust have his own radio station that he speaks through at all times as he reads out the truth that the Grells are the next step in evolution. It's not Three Dog, it's Proust Live. So we're definitely looking at something with Proust and bringing him to the forefront, but really making him come alive in Heavy Gear 3 in a way that hasn't been done before. And we're really excited about that. So just want to let everyone know about that. I don't think the New Human Alliance would listen to smooth jazz. I suspect that the New Human Alliance is a little bit more into. I would suspect they're probably more into like prodigy music. That's just my own personal opinions there, Jayton. Just responding to your comments there. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen. But there you go. But yeah, as we're taking a look at everything else there, and we're really excited about all that, these are things that will be shared in the future, obviously. I Man, do you think what was the time? It's 12:32. We might be ending soon. I'll give a chance for people to ask new questions. If you have new questions, feel free to post. Do you guys want to see one last sneak peek at something before everybody else gets to see stuff? Do you guys want to see some stuff there? One last one? Are you gonna yell at me? Is the peer pressure gonna flow from this? Just gonna wait to see if you guys can convince me to show you more stuff. All right, one last one. I think we're going to talk a little bit rovers, and let's show you what our version of rovers would be like. So, rovers. This is pretty exciting stuff, right? Rovers are the mercenaries of Terra Nova. They are the mercenary gangs. And one thing that we like about rovers is that rovers have all sorts of different weapons. They're pulled from all different things. Yeah, we grabbed the old style head unit, if you notice that, magnificent. And it was kind of inspired by a rattlesnake, I think is what we saw. And then we grabbed a few different pieces and just clanked it all together, added some wear and tear to it, obviously. But the main thing was what we really wanted to show off with these is that rovers, they're not like Fallout 4 and Skyrim bandits and raiders. Rovers can be your enemy. Rovers can be your friend. Rovers can be neutral. Rovers can be protecting a town. Rovers can be occupying a town. Rovers can be escorting caravans. Rovers can be attacking caravans. So the really interesting thing here is, as you see, we wanted to give rovers a lot of character. Now, are there discussions about whether or not we want to have, say, characters that your main character is going to meet who are possibly rovers or have a history of being in rover gangs and things like that? Probably. Might we have more rovers than the lore supports in terms of just population density and stuff? That comes down to gameplay balance and stuff like that. Terra Nova is a very big geographical area, so that's something that we'll take a look at. But I think the main thing to understand here is that, and this is a big one, games need points of interest, and games also need, and this is very, very important, games also need conflict, but choices. Actions have consequences. And choices have consequences. And one of the things that we like about the rovers is that rovers can have a lot more personality than just being a generic bad guy faction. So, as you can see here, we really wanted to show this. This also answered one of the other earlier questions. You can see that little RPG that the one guy has. They all seem to be pretty stylized, and they have like it's a bit of a relic, but they do have a gear with them. So the idea is that you're always going to be fighting kind of different combinations of bad guys using different tactics and making things a little bit more fun. Well, with that, I'm going to hide that screen. Don't let the other people see. They need to know that they missed this. But that was the main one there, and hope that got covered all that stuff. All right, so I'm just going to be talking in chat. I'll wait to see if there's any new ask questions. So once again, for all of you guys out there, if you want to go back to ask a question, you can submit some new questions right now. Um, but we should be doing good on that. There will be, obviously this will be uploaded on Monday, so there will be a record of this whole thing. And I am recording this audio-wise, so it should be fine. Every cough and heavy breath that I've been having, I apologize about that. We'll go from there as well. I have been asked by a few people, things are like, what can I do to help? Something I had a few people send me. And right now, the best thing you can do to help is follow our socials. Encourage your friends to join the Discord. Just talk about how much you love heavy gear. You don't have to go crazy about it. Like don't break server rules or other things like that. Like don't do promotion or anything. But just getting people to know, showing the teaser, talking about all that jazz is fine. And also, we're very aware. There's been some loud voices, and justifiably loud, because of the way our industry is and stuff, who've been saying things like, is this too big for this team? I've never heard of this team, all that kind of stuff. So although Flameborn is a relatively new studio, we are officially out of danger zone is the joke that I made to some people on my team. We're now a year old, heading to our second year of operation. But many people on our team have actually worked together for between 2 to 3 years because we worked at prior places. On top of that, many of us have been in the industry for longer than 10 years. So it is not like we do have some new people on the team. We have some youngsters with some blood and stuff like that. The youngins, and then some of us were old and our bones are dust. That's probably me. But yeah, we still remember Atari when it was Atari. And oh yeah, I remember when Pac-Man was a brand new game. But the thing is, and old, yeah, he's old. Oh my God, that's not hair, it's some wig. But yeah, no, there's definitely dust in my voice. That hurt my voice. I shouldn't have made that joke. Oh, Lord Badger, that hurts my feelings. What's Atari? That's painful. That's painful to read. But the main thing is that we do have a lot of experience in all that jazz, and we are trying to scope. But one of the fairest questions we saw online, and I noticed this when I sat up, was someone was like, what's the chances of success? Like, all that jazz. Let's just cut the bullshit. And I'm going to swear at that. There are all sorts of people in the industry who will tell you that everything's a sure bet. They'll tell you that something's going to come out. They have a surefire hit, blah, 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 blah. Here's Flameborn Games' promise to you, the fans of heavy gear. Because you guys have been through a lot. And I know that some of you who put lots of money in, especially older fans, into Heavy Gear Assault. And I've met people from the Heavy Gear Assault team where it still hurts them. They're still hurt about what happened on that game. And I'm not speaking for them, just to be clear, but this is a game thing. We're never going to sugarcoat, okay? We're not going to overhype. We're not. There's a reason. We're not going to bullshot stuff. We're going to show you what we want in game. If we have to take a step back on something, we're going to clearly explain. If we had to make a sacrifice for frame rate or something like that, we're going to tell you that. We personally believe that the industry needs to be, I wouldn't call it more transparent, but we need to communicate better with people. Many people are now more and more gamers, and but they also are becoming hobbyists, and they can download game engines. They've worked in game engines. Some have worked. Many of us understand how the sausages are made, so to speak. But at the same time, if you're treated as if you guys don't know how these things are going on, that's not fair to you. It isn't. And we only exist because of people like you. We exist because of the exuberance and passion of fans. We exist because people who want to lose themselves in immersive experiences. They want to challenge themselves with fun gameplay. And it's important. Are we going to please everyone? No, no one can please everyone. Always be suspicious of someone who pleases everyone. That means they didn't stand for anything, in my opinion. But at the same time, we're going to be quite clear about what we're putting in front of you guys. And that's very, very important. So what are the chances of success? We have the same chance of success that everybody else in this industry has. We have funding, which is better than most, and we're moving forward. But these are volatile times. Some of the biggest studios that you would think would be secure have collapsed. Monolith Games was shut down. The makers of Shadow of Mordor and War in Mordor, or Shadow of War. Um, how does that even happen? How does a studio that established get shut down? And the answer is always the same. There's economics, there's business decisions, there's risk. So, and yeah, Cobra, I felt bad for them too. I know some people who are at Monolith. Great people, skilled devs, absolutely crazy stuff. Some of the stuff I've heard about the Wonder Woman game, which was announced, that's in the news, so it's not an NDA thing. It sounded like it was going to be a really cool project. But I think the main thing is that we're going to do our best to bring this to life. And if there was a point where this wasn't, if things were going bad, we would tell you guys. We would ring that bell, and we would say that directly to your faces. So you're always going to get straight to your face from us, from the mouth to the ear, what's going on. And if we're saying that we can't say something, there's probably because there's legalities, or we're working on specifically putting together the information. So that's kind of our goal, and that's kind of our attitude about this stuff, just to be clear. Looks like we have 3 more questions. I'm going to get into that in just 1 second. So let's try to go through these right now. All right. Kilroy47. Show references. You mentioned that there might be some gear skins that match from the show. Any other Easter eggs that might show up? Could we possibly hear Von Boom Boom Maddox on distant vid screen? I will neither confirm nor deny anything there. Kilroy47. You might hear in the background me frantically taking down notes, because that might have you might have just lit a light bulb up in my head. But we'll just say we can't confirm nor deny anything there. Moving on from there, will there be Easter eggs? Of course, we're going to put a lot of Easter eggs from all the stuff in there if we can, and there's going to be a lot of references and things like that. Of course, of course. How long is the roadmap envisioned for the project? Pardon, it feels like I'm getting ahead of development, but truly, how long is the project viewed to last? 2 years, 3? Alley Cat, this is something. I don't know where the 2 years out came from. I read that somewhere. We never said that. This game, I would say we get there when we get there, is a joke I'd make. We all know the Blizzard response, if you ever seen Blizzard, where it's like, when are you going to release it? And Blizzard, when it's done. I would respond with, we'll release it when it's done. What do we project? I would say we're looking at a 3 to 4 year production timeline is most likely what we're looking at in terms of a game at this scale and what we're trying to pull off. If there was a delay, it would be communicated. And if the delay was happening, it would be because of quality or because of budget. There's 3 reasons why games get delayed. Number 1, there was a major pivot or exodus at some point in production. This happens all the time, especially in AAA. This can be very disruptive. So if you lose key members of the team because there's disagreements, emotions, whatever, budget, you don't know. And then you have to hire new people. And what do new artists always do? And what do new management always do? They come in and they go, I have new ideas. And then the team goes, oh no. And they go, let's implement these new ideas. And you go, oh no. And they go, we can do it fast. 6 months later, you have to delay. So that's number 1 reason why there are delays. Yeah. Number 2 is you have to do a pivot because it's not working. Famously, Halo. Halo was originally a tactical turn-based XCOM style game. And they were playing that around their office, and they said, "This sucks. This doesn't feel good. Nothing feels good about this." And they kept looking at it, going like, What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?" And this is the OG Halo. And then someone's like, "What if it was first person? What if we were just the Spartan? What if we were doing this?" And then they started exploring that, and they said, "Oh, we got something." So another reason why you delay, and that's usually without being publicly announced, but backward-facing delay, is because you're doing a major pivot, but the pivot is for a very good reason. Um, the third one is this one. And I'm going to get into that in a second, Jock. But the third one for major delay is because of, and we all saw this recently, little game called Silk Song. Do we all know that game? That little thing dropped, crashed a bunch of marketplaces. I think all the marketplaces got crashed in one go. Just a little game, just a small thing, right? There was also, what was the other one? Something Theft Auto Grand Theft Grand Auto. I don't know what it's called anymore. When major games are dropping in the same window that you're supposed to be dropping, or when you know that there's going to be a major thing that might change expectations, some people will actually delay their games because they want to see what the other person's doing. They want to see if the bar has been raised in terms of quality and things like that. So those are the normal reasons for delays. There's of course other reasons like budgetary stuff. Sometimes you have crazy stuff happen. I heard of a game studio. I forget which studio this was. They lost all of their work. They had a fire. They had no backups. This was before cloud stuff, so all their drives and stuff melted. They had to start from scratch. But I would consider that an act of God, and that's not a common thing to hear anymore. Although sort of kind of technically happened to Heavy Gear Assault. But that's something to kind of think about there. In specifically with that was yeah. Another thing too is I think some people got excited thinking that we were trying to do like in the next 2 years. The main reason we announced so early was it was the 30th anniversary of Heavy Gear. We were doing Heavy Gear 3, and it was the 30th of July. It all lined up to have 333, and we were just like, well, yeah, to do this. This will be great. So we were just so excited just to announce we were working on it. That's why the teaser doesn't have any gameplay because we're not going to like bullshit gameplay for you guys. We want to make sure that everyone understood our tone and where we're going, but obviously it's still a little bit open enough that we can pivot and change as we work with our partners at DreamPod 9, as well as other people and as we get and grow as a studio. Because we do expect to be growing over the next couple of years, especially over the next 2 years. Going back to the question, so I think that answered your question there, Alley Cat. Out of gear fashion, Cobra the Iron Warrior. Love the avatar, by the way. Space Marine. While I imagine out of gear, you'll of course have your armor and your rig, so there'll be cosmetic systems where you can have your preferred armor or clothes on your pilot. The answer to that is yes. I'm going to say at the moment, it's still obviously subject to change, but yeah, we've talked about cosmetics. We really do want to have you being able to choose clothes and different things, and it's kind of hard to not, Heavy Gear is such a beautiful world. We're not going to get to go to the whole world of Terra Nova, right? So we're not definitely going to the North or South poles outside of maybe specific missions, but highly doubt it. And we're not even sure exactly, there could be a narrower scope. So maybe we're not going to Peace River, maybe we're not going to Port Arthur. The one city I can say, and I've locked down, we've said that we're doing is Caradon for sure, and we're going to definitely do some version of Caradon or going to some area of Caradon, but that's definitely on the that's been the core thing. We're like, yep, this is happening. But how do you show things like the Sun Emirates, the Humanist Alliance, the Mekong Dominion, the UMF, the Western Frontier Protectorates, and all that stuff? Like, how do you show different cultures? And obviously, clothes. Clothes is one of the easiest things to show. Cosmetics, decals, art, things like that. So that's definitely a guarantee that we're going to try to do some fun stuff there. And we're really excited about that stuff. Okay, this is a fun one. Jayton, any thoughts on making some collaboration units with a tabletop or the 4E RPG that's being worked on? Jayton, you're one of my moderators. Jaden, you work for DreamPod 9. Jaden! And I'm joking here a little bit. So this is totally a fine question to ask. I can never. That's going to be a meme for us. Jaden, no. No, but no, he's totally fine to ask that question. So I can either confirm or deny. I can say that there was a discussion with Robert at DreamPod 9 on collaboration on minis. I would love to collaborate with the 4E crowd. I know that some of the core members of the 4E crowd are on our moderation team and work alongside us. So I'd absolutely love doing those kind of things. No, Jane, I'm joking a little bit there. That was just me making jokes because you're a moderator on the team. So it's like I'm joking there just to be clear. But I do think that I could definitely see us doing some back and forth. We would love to do more things with DreamPod now. We love working with them so far, and everything that they do is really fun. Um, Now, all of that said, I think that covers everything. I'll give this. If there's any last questions, we still have about 10 minutes before this Q&A is kind of over, so we can go from there. So I'll give maybe one or two more questions, and we can go from there, and then all that jazz. Do you guys want to see another? Do you want to see another thing? Another sneak peek that only you guys get to see? Is that? Are we sure? Should I? Should I do that? Am I allowed to do that? Can I? It'll be slow. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should stay away. Maybe we should show something a little special, something we've been working on. It's not a gear, I'll say that. It's a little bit different. Okay, we might show it. It might take a while for this to be shown to the rest of the community, so that means only you 30 people are seeing this. I don't know. I'm gonna let Jock. Maybe someone will convince me not to show it. I'm just waiting to see if anyone's gonna write at me not to show stuff. It just takes one person saying don't do it for me to say no. Just waiting. Don't spoil the project. Okay. Alley Cat might have convinced me. I guess I might have to not click this button. Wait, no, Lord Badger just called me a coward. Yeah, I'm not a coward. Hang on a second. Okay. Let's show this last one today. You might notice this one. This is a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? There's a very specific culture inside of Heavy Gear, and we did a little bit of a redesign. Not totally, but we had a little bit of fun here. And we're just in the early days of looking at this culture. They're called the Sand Riders, and they have a very specific name that I always get wrong. But they use Barnabys. They travel the white sand. They also have very special rifles, and they have white sand bullets, the Koriyashi. And one thing that we liked about the Koriyashi is there was a lot of talk about their blades. And we asked ourselves, culturally, historically, on the planet, who are the deadliest people with swords and big knives that you never want to face in combat ever? And then who would be crazy enough to live in a white, acidic sand desert? And what could be an influence for that culture? Um, and we decided the Gurkha blade was possibly one of the coolest swords that we know of and blades, and that we felt really fit the culture really well. And we wanted to kind of show off that kind of aspect of it. Meanwhile, if you look at some of the art there, and there's not all that the art, but we decided to really get into a little bit of the kind of fine stuff. So some personalization along the stirrups, the saddle. These are kind of what we nickname white sand tents. So that gives them protection so they can have enclosures if there's a sandstorm. But the big one, of course, is the rebreathers, the glasses, the very unique headband stuff, and then also the fact that even this guy has his Gurkha blade back right there is the hilt right there. But we really wanted to showcase them as being very unique, but we want to play up that they are not Freeman, because they are very much masters of long-range combat. But if you get too close, you're in trouble. So with all of that said, I want to just get rid of that right now. But I think that's about it. I think we covered everything. We'll have to talk a little bit more in the future. There's obviously more to share with you in the coming weeks and months and all that jazz. I will say there's two things up on your calendars. So obviously we will be doing some interesting kind of talks. So not all of these every 2 Fridays, so every 2 weeks are going to be QAs. Some of these are actually going to be where I will be bringing a member of the team to come up here and we'll be talking and then sharing some stuff. I think the one that we're looking forward to, I'm just trying to find a time we can schedule because he's right now in production, as I said, on Project A, which is our unannounced game that we're working on, which was prior to the Heavy Gear work. But I am going to be trying to bring our art director down, Vlad, as well as potentially some of our artists who did 3D stuff. We're going to really start talking about some of the stuff that we were working on and our excitement and all that jazz. I'm hoping that we'll be able to have some bigger conversations about some of the stuff that we're doing. There was a weird question I got, ironically, from a journalist of all people, which was in a private thing. And the question was, are we doing Oasis Towers? And I'm like, how do you do the Badlands without Oasis Towers? That just felt strange to me. I'm like, well, yeah, you have to do Oasis Towers. But one of the things I'm really looking forward to is talking a little bit about what we're hoping with Oasis Towers. We have some internal art. It was very, very early, so I will say it's very much subject to change. But we'll talk about Oasis Towers, and we're going to talk about something that we kind of invented, and it looks like DreamPod 9 was kind of excited about it because we thought it was a cool idea, and we're calling them sand barriers. Which is our sand breakers, is what we nicknamed them, and we'll show you some of that art next time we talk, or at least within the next 2 or 3 sessions. But and yes, we are really looking for mounts as well as vehicles. So Barnabys and Springers are definitely on the list. Magnificent Lily Witch. We really want to do some fun stuff there. That's still subject to change, though. There are some challenges there for living mounts and vehicles and things like that. I will say minimum viable for us is always, of course, going to be gear combat, and that's the main focus, of course. But we want out of gear combat and vehicle slash mount combat for sure. The only thing I will say is definitely not on the cards is flight. Anything that is flying. So as cool as aircraft are and that kind of stuff inside of heavy gear, we're definitely staying away from that. And jump jets is another big one. I'm still going to have to talk with some of the guys at DreamPod 9. We're staying away from that. That's something that we noticed, especially with the time frame that we're doing this story in. We really did notice that we don't speed vehicles. That's what heavy gears are. They're all about movement, and we really want to play up the movement. So we don't want you to be in a clanker that then shoots up into the air and lands, shoots up in the air and lands. That's not what we're trying to do. We're really trying to get you into the sense of being a duelist and being a pilot, or being in very fast vehicles, or when you're dismounting from something, running as fast as you can for cover because you don't want to get hit by a gear, which is a big thing. So that's something that we're really talking about here with all that kind of stuff. All right. Well, I think that covers everything today. I think that's pretty much it for today. So you know what? We got 5 more minutes. So if there's any sort of last questions to ask, you may drop it into the Ask a Questions. Do it fast. I might have time to answer 1 or 2 more questions if anyone's here to ask something. I blocked out all this time despite my throat feeling like sandpaper because St. Vincent's plague is really hurting me. But don't worry, I had enough cough syrup. I'll get through it. 3D models are a ways off, Jock. If you're talking about if you're going to see new 3D models or in-game models, Jock, it's going to be a while. But if you can ask that question, ask a question so I can give a proper answer, that'd be great. Just responding to the chat there. Drink Warden tea. I will do my best. Okay, I'm going to respond to the first question I see here. Stoneheads! Question mark, and then Stoneheads! Triple exclamation points. Of course there'll be Stoneheads. Of course there'll be Stoneheads, Alley Cow. How can you have heavy gear without Stoneheads? We're going to do all the different sizes and things like that. There's definitely some things. We'll be testing out some sizes. I saw a piece of art where like the Stoneheads were, I think, bigger than Himalayas. Like I joked, I was like, that like goes into orbit the way that art is drawn. So I'm not sure we're going to get too much into that. But yeah, stoneheads are going to be a big part of the environmental stuff. We have a stonehead in the teaser, if you didn't notice. Also, did anyone notice that we had an Oasis tower in the teaser in the background? Just out of curiosity, did anyone notice that the Oasis tower was there? It's just past the smoke and fire from the land ship that's burning in the background on the left side. And yeah, that was a little fun thing. It's a little bit hazed up and all that jazz, but it was a little bit of a hint there. All right, going to, oh my God, there was like 5 questions posted at the same time. Yeah. All right, so Jock, posting here for reference, when will we see some 3D models? There will be definitely some 3D models being shared. We're going to be getting into more work as we get our production done on Project A, which is not announced yet, so I have to call it that because of NDAs and all that kind of jazz. People are going to be moving off of that, especially 3D artists, and we're going to be moving on to other things. I'm hoping sooner rather than later, but at the very least, you're going to have access to us talking about design decisions and things like that, and getting into stuff. There will be some more things that you guys haven't seen shared for sure, but I have to clear that with the team and double check things. So I hope that answers your post there. From Lord Badger, character creation. Will there be character creator for players make human monstrosities to pilot heavy gears? Human monstrosities. Okay, that's a very interesting choice of words there, Lord Badger. Character creator. There will be a character creator of sorts. That's all I can say. I can't get too much into it, but there is. We are absolutely looking at a thing that is kind of very 4E-ish. From the RPG of how you make the character that is your character in this world. That is as far as I can get into that right now, though. Weapon reloading from Nomad Wolf. Are there any intentions for having unique reloading for infantry and gear weapons, like in Titanfall 2? Okay, so I think I'm going to ask this and see if Nomad Wolf can type this in the chat window here. So I'll see if he's around. Weapon reloading is an interesting thing in of itself. If you mean, are there going to be different ammo types? Are there going to be different kind of loading techniques and things like that? Yeah, like, there's going to be lots of different weapons. It's going to be absolutely change. And we could also imagine there being weapons that you cannot reload in combat. Once you've used X amount of missiles from your missile pod, as an example, you don't get to reload easily. You got to get back to a place that can reload you, and that's part of that kind. Now, ammo and health stations versus I think my headset just skipped there a little bit. So let me just rephrase that. Yeah, no, it was like a bug there. I can see because everyone's like, "What? I thought he died." Sorry. We're definitely not doing ammo and health stations a la Heavy Gear 2 because that's much more mission based, Shyborg, in terms of like single player mission stuff. Would there be ammo like lying around? Would you be able to pick up ammo from things? Absolutely. But think of it more in terms of something that's more sandboxy, so more sandbox RPGs. So think like, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, that kind of stuff where you're picking things up and checking things up. So that's kind of more where it is at. So you're not going to just like see like a weird like floating cross heart in the sand. That's not what we're going for there because we feel that's very unimmersive and not in the heavy gear style. But to answer the question, yeah, definitely kind of going for some more stuff there for sure. Titanfall 2 is definitely a reference point on the team as well. I definitely play a lot of Titanfall 2 and Titanfall 1, so it's something that's definitely part of the conversation. So I hope that answers your question, Nomad Wolf. Factions. Okay, so this is the last one. And then we're going to have to call it the day. So, Rebel Wick. What other factions unique to the Badlands might we see? Also, I don't know much Heavy Gear lore, so who the fuck is Prow? who, I like how you TF, and I just fell for it and said it. I'm so good at PR. Who TF is Proust? So, sorry that I was laughing there. All right. Colonel Proust is a very fascinating character from Heavy Gear lore. He's also in Heavy Gear 1 significantly. I don't think he was in Heavy Gear 2, but he was definitely in Heavy Gear 1. If he is in Heavy Gear 2, please correct me, those who know. But it's been so long since I played Heavy Gear 2, I don't remember. He was? My God, I'm going to have to replay it again. Damn it. All right. So, interesting thing about Proust. Proust is wild. Proust is a megalomaniac Grell clone soldier from the CEF who had invaded Terra Nova in the past. And he's a leftover, and he now believes that they would have won the war if Grells were in charge. He's a Jan model, if I'm not mistaken, so he's a commander model. Grell trooper and Grell clone soldiers all look the same from the class that they're in. And Proust is just he's a character. And there's been very different versions of Proust. So when you're reading some of the stuff in the books versus when you're like hearing how he's voiced, Proust has a lot of different personalities. So we took one look at Proust and we're like, we have to use this guy. And we're very excited about bringing our version of Proust to life while honoring the kind of Proust that was in the video games. But we think a good way of describing him, Proust is like a Grell Magneto or Starscream. Um, like it's hard to tell if he's winning half the time. He has an absolute insane ability to survive things. You think he's gone and then he's not. We absolutely love. I had a 2 hour conversation with Robert from DreamPod 9 about Proust in our office. And he gave us notes on our key art actually. Well, not key art, but the black and white thumb for Proust. Because our original one was Proust with the gun shooting it. And he was like, Proust would not demean himself by shooting his gun. Proust would have a power fist, holding his fist up in absolute pride at his soldiers going forth. So we really talked about Proust as like Cobra Commander and Magneto and Starscream. And yeah, absolutely, Danon. Like to us, the best thing about Proust is like, are you winning Proust? Like, did you do good? So there's a lot of fun with that character and just how absolutely over the top it can be. So we want to do some fun stuff with him for sure. Um, all right. So the last question. This is an interesting one. Hiring. This is from Helios. Is the company looking to hire any additional programmers at the moment or at this time? All of our hiring. This is important. I'm going to say this because I actually already had someone reach out about this. We would never reach out to someone directly via like an email or something to hire you. That is an old school scam. If you are being reached out by someone on this team, there's an easy way to verify. You can always ask me here on Discord by sending me a private message and confirm. And I'm going to get to the rest of your question, Helios, just to be clear. And we have Discord things, but we would normally have a job posting up on LinkedIn where we post. So if you want to follow Flameborn Games on LinkedIn, and then when we have job openings, that's where we post for cold call stuff. If there was a direct conversation happening where we were getting you referred by someone because someone knew about stuff like that, that's a very different situation, but all of our communication would be initiated via Discord with verification for both parties, and then it would go through formal channels. Be very, very careful about job scams. They prey on people wanting to get into the game industry or getting into entertainment industries that they're fans of. They try to convince you that you need to pay for something or equipment and chargebacks and all that things. I'm always very upset when I hear about people who get screwed like this, or they ask you to do free work and all that stuff. So I really want to stress that it would not do that. Um, and yeah, and you should not include your personal phone number or an email address in a public resume. Set up a secondary email that is just your work email. That just handles that stuff. It's super easy, and then it limits the damage. And if it's not connected to any of your social networks or things like that, um, it's uh, it's very easy. You can also retract the email. That's totally fine, and you can set up a different email. But you can. All of our stuff is done through LinkedIn for a reason, and other stuff like that. But that's just personal advice there. Okay, you know what? We're 105 here, so I will allow one last question. One last question. If anyone has a question, type it as quick as you can and ask your questions, and I will cover it. But we will mark it down. Can I do a flip? My bones are dust. My bones are bust. I don't know if I'll survive that, Mako. So no, I can't. I don't think I'll be able to do a flip. But I'm not going to consider that a question because that wasn't posted in Ask a Question. I used to be able to do a flip when I was younger, when I was in my 20s. I actually could do flips. I actually could do up to 3 flips in a row. Then I gained weight because I went to university. Then I could not do flips. So the lesson there is, children, if you're going to play games, also get a physical hobby so you can keep yourself fit enough to keep doing flips. Um, yeah, lose fat, do a flip, absolutely. Don't take an arrow to the knee. All right, so this Lord Badger, can we romance Prowse in Heavy Gear 3? Hmm, that's an idea. That's interesting. I'm going to think on that. Proust as a romance partner. I don't think anyone will see that coming. I can hear Nicholas and Robert screaming from the distance at me right now. Um, Intriguing. Proust, would Proust find love on the battlefield? So with that joke done, I think that's the last question, and I think we answered everything we were going to say. So I hope you guys all had a good time today. It was great to have you all here. Our next Q&A, let's just do a double check here, is Friday the 26th of September, and hopefully go there. I will be confirming when there are bigger things going on, and we'll kind of go through all that jazz. But with that done and said, adieu, goodbye. It was all fun, and we'll be uploading the audio for this Q&A on Monday, not end of day today, but on Monday, and then it can be shared from there. And remember, do your part. If you can keep telling people to join our Discord, if we can keep getting those numbers up, it always helps us and helps us with all the things that we're trying to do. And just remember, tell people to watch that teaser again. It's a lot of fun. Always helps us. All right. Is it the 26th yet? I will see you all later. What a great little Q&A. Talk to you guys later. Oh, wait. Answer the last question, please, Rebelwick. What's the last question? The flip? Can I do a flip? Is that the question? Can a gear do a flip? Oh, geez. Um, can gears? Well, they can be flipped over and flipped around. They can be freaking catered. You know, if you have enough of an anti-gear landmine, you can definitely make a gear do a flip. And I'm not saying that a mammoth or a strider can't use its own legs to kick a gear where it hurts, but I I would say that we might have to see what happens when something goes crazy. But I'm not sure about how aerodynamic a mammoth is. But I could see some pretty funny physics with stuff. God, what gear could possibly do a flip? I'm trying to think. They're all so big. That'd be the weirdest thing to watch. I feel like that's a TV show talking. Like that's a television show executive from the old TV show being like, "What if they did a flip? Will that sell 10,000 more units of toys?" Let's not go there. Anyways, to that end, I wish you all a great day. I will talk to you all later, and yeah, onwards and upwards for Heavy Gear 3. Ciao, guys.